Sounds.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. Today we have episode number 58 here, and this is a fucking gonna be a banger. You know, just like this band's music are fucking bangers. But today we have Austin and Chris from Threnody. How are y'all today?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Dude, I'm having a good day. It's nice outside today. You know, juxtaposition to the fucking freeze that we had like like a week ago.
I'm in the complete opposite. I hate cold weather. I prefer 90-degree weather.
90?
I would take it all year over 30-degree
This guy
weather.
hates the cold.
Yeah.
Like, I like my car cold, and every time he hops in, he tries to like mess with the vents.
I'm the same way. I prefer cold over heat. Like always, it's just because
you can layer up, be like, I don't know, get cozy.
I do that on purpose. Like I keep the house, and like before when I lived in an apartment, like I kept it cold in the summer on purpose so I could cold enough to use a blanket, so I could sleep like covered up.
Who does
so
that?
weird.
John does that, right?
Yeah, so our friend John, not our bass player John, we have another friend John. We go to his place. He's like, you have to dress for winter. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. You have to dress for winter to go to his place.
At least he sets the expectation.
Yeah,
you know what you're coming into.
I know. It's like bring a blanket or bring a coat.
In here, like I try to cool it down now because the lights get like really hot. It's something I didn't anticipate initially. I'm like, oh, it does get kind of hot. But yeah, I mean, like, dude, I've been hearing Threnody for years now, man. Y'all been around for a minute. Like, how's that been like?
How's that been like? I don't know. It's been chill. I don't know. We just keep doing our thing.
Yeah.
Just making music constantly.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like he's gone through multiple iterations. It's mostly the same people. It's been him and our bass player since the start. But it almost feels like it's the journey of like a couple different bands, but it's just one band.
It's just does it feel like with all like because I know you have I think it's like 4 separate releases. Like have they all been similar members in it, or everybody's been like kind of changing around a little bit?
For the most part, we had our old drummer for the majority of it, and then these past couple of singles that we put out, we had a new drummer, Fosh.
Fosh is so fucking good.
Yeah, we played a show on Friday at Emo Night,
and
he was going off on some of the fills like never before.
He's so talented, and it has so many bands too. It's one of those people like once you're like that good, like everybody's trying to find it. But I feel like that's a good fit because so Fosh did play on the new singles that y'all put out, right?
Yeah, starting from Bleeding Hand, right? He didn't do anything before.
Yeah, well, he wrote on them. All the drums are programmed though, but yeah he wrote on it. He started writing on he didn't write it on the first single we put out this last year, but I think he did all the rest of them.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because just listening to those, the drum parts are just really fucking sick, which I think leads to like. It's always like a bass layer for like any band or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like having a really solid drummer, but it makes all of like the really like heavy parts just hit so fucking well. It's one of the things like I was listening to it in the car, and it's where I like to listen to most things. So I'm just like going through it. I'm like, this shit hits really fucking well. Like it's insane. And I'm like, this is really good. What's been the difference with like that newer stuff now writing with like a new drummer? Like has it kind of fit in really quickly or is it?
Yeah, so it was a natural fit pretty much from the get-go. Like he's always been down to give his input on things, like whether he wants to help out on certain drum parts here or there. Like he's always got a ear for structure and composing drum, like even in MIDI. He helps out here and there, so it's been nice. It's been going pretty well so far. So far.
Yeah, he usually goes back through the MIDI whenever. We usually write the demos at my house, and then if it's just me alone, I'll program the drums, and I'll just program. I usually program really fucking hard drums.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's doing crazy shit. He's like playing like kick and snare at the same time.
I put like so many ghost notes in there. Like you take out what you're not gonna be able to hit. I kind of guessed a little bit. I mean, I try not to write spider arm parts. Like you have to have 4 arms. That's what I like to call it. Like we have to hit 4 things at a time. But So I think it's usually fine. I've gotten better at programming it, so whenever he comes back through it, it's less work of him trying to fix stupid stuff that I've done, like putting cymbal hits over where he can't hit the cymbal. Like
so, do you drum at all? Like actually?
I do not.
Okay, so it's writing drums with like without the drum. Okay,
I actually
drummer.
I looked up when I first started programming,
and
it's just gotten better over time. I looked up videos on how to understand drums, at least, so that way I can know how to program. Try to at least understand how to program drums, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing at first. I was like, I remember when we first started this, we tried multiple projects before we started this project, and we went multiple times trying to program drums and failing. And it's not even technically that hard to program drums. You just have to know how to, but programming them well, I guess, is hard.
Understanding how to like write like good drum. I realized that. I mean, I've been part of like listening and seeing like, so in like our old band we would do the same thing, and when programs like we had like scratch guitars and all that stuff. So when our bass player would go in there and program for drums, he does have a background in drumming, but it's not like full kit drumming really. Like it was all like just percussion. So we get rhythms, and as a musician you can understand rhythms and stuff like that, but it's not. It's different from someone who like that's their instrument, so they know like what better would make a song flow here, what type of like fill or like what does intensity it needs. So it's a little bit different understanding. But I feel like it's important you get the idea down though. You know what I mean? Like it's still like the idea is getting built. So again, if your drummer goes back and like listens to Fosh listens to like, oh, okay, this might not fit as well. Like let's take a look at it, or let me write something different to it. But it gets the idea going. And it's because you can write like a scratch, guitar or like all that stuff, but without drums, like drums adds a whole like different feel to it. So you could be writing to it, even like with vocals, you could be writing to it in a certain way, and then when you go back and look, the drums completely change it, or you have to go back and be like, oh no, look, I wrote this. Like you'll have to write drums like in this like manner. Is what's usually like the order of like writing for y'all?
Chris usually pumps out the demos. He's got guitar, drums, synths going on usually. Sometimes he'll do bass. Or nowadays he's throwing bass on everything.
I'm programming the bass now and everything. Though.
Oh really?
Yeah, because it just sounds better than recording the bass. The new bass like MIDI stuff is like fucking awesome. Yeah. Like it sounds like a real bass. So most people, the recordings, the last 3 songs were all program bass. We didn't record bass. So
oh shit. Okay.
I should tell like it sounds like
us.
That's the truth. Like the only thing recorded was the guitar and the vocal. The
guitar vocals and the other recorded.
The rest is programmed stuff. So.
There's so much like cool like shit coming out so that you can record like stuff and just get like ideas down.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I know, and I've like seen like some program like bass sound stuff, but I didn't like have seen like full tracks of it, and it sounds really good. So that's what like I'm looking at it now. Like I think it's starting to become less and less like a taboo thing or something. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, we're just fucking trying to write some music. Like,
just pumping out demo songs as much as we can.
We're not but there's bigger bands using those same plugins. Yeah. It's like Odal Home Audio's where we got the bass thing from. He's Buster Odal Home. I don't know if he's in Humanity's Last Breath, Phil Jarda. I think he's in the band Throne now also.
Okay.
We send our stuff to get mixed through him, so I just bought his bass plugin that works through Kontakt. And yeah, that thing it sounds awesome, and it had reviews like Jordan Fish from Bring Me the Horizon says he uses it on some of their mixes. So it's like the bass amp the bass MIDI is really good nowadays, especially from that kind of stuff for playing low heavy music. You don't even need a bass most of the time. Like a real bass does sound better, right? Just like real drums probably sound like if you can do the bass right, it'll sound better real. Like drums.
You got, and then that's the other like side of it. You know what I mean? So like. If people might argue like it's still like the live drums or live bass is like it's gonna sound better, but at the moment it's like what do I have access to that I can do like right now? You know what I mean? Like what's the easiest way for like me to do it? The inconvenience of like having to go like even just finding the right people to track with. Sure it might sound better, but if you don't have the right person like to track that stuff, or like if it doesn't it doesn't do well or mix well, then what's the point of like doing live drums or like and it's hard like to get because everything in like especially in like the type of music that y'all play has to be precise, like
Yeah.
so fucking precise,
Yeah,
and
dude.
it's a taxing experience. Like on drummers that I've like talked to, is like, yeah, everything's it's can't be as loose as maybe like other genres, like with the playing. Like it's got to be so fucking precise. So
It has
I
to
mean,
be.
programming is a easy way to get that for recording. I mean, live. I mean, you're playing live, so like it's still that experience.
Yeah.
So it's still
Yeah.
you get the live experience. So I think like I enjoy the fact that there's an easier way to pump out songs, especially. So you guys
Yeah.
do your own tracking?
Yeah, nowadays we do our own tracking because I mean we've just done it so long that we just know when to track. So like we'll maybe do writing with people over FaceTime.
Yeah.
Like we'll send songs back and forth, but we'll just track it all there. And then when a song's written, I'll go back through it and change strings and retrack it myself and edit the guitars myself.
Yeah.
And just do the whole thing and then send it off because it's just so much easier for me to track it in my own time.
Yeah.
Than go somewhere. And I know I can do it right anyway, so I'm just gonna. I know I do it. I know I do it
You know
right.
how to do it right.
I know I do it right. So
I mean, the
yeah.
tracks, like, I prove it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
listening to them is like, everything sounds good, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
And then you find, like, again, I like the idea of just, like, working with people to, like, oh, we send it off to get, mix and master and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Comes back. Like, you don't have to do everything, but if you can take a big part of it, I mean, tracking is hell, you know what I mean? Like if you,
Yeah.
especially like if you're stuck, if you're on a time crunch like that, I always like thought about those like bands that would go in and be like, oh, we have like a week, we're tracking like everything and doing everything. I'm like, that's so much fucking pressure
No.
to get
Yep.
done
I
like
can't do it in a
right.
week.
You know what I
Then
mean?
to get it done right.
From
like,
experience,
yeah.
I can tell it's almost, especially for tracking real drums, it's not possible in a
Yeah.
week. Like it's just too much to do unless you've already gone through the process of making sure everything is exactly how you want it in the demo beforehand.
Yeah.
Like not going in there and rewriting a drum part while you're recording it or something like that. Like exactly what we're gonna do. Like, 'cause not that you can't do that on the spot, but it usually adds extra time, so you just can't get it done in a week.
It's way more difficult. If you start changing stuff, then you have
Yeah.
to make sure that new stuff is like real precise and like
Yeah.
practice and stuff. And if you're writing and in the moment, like it's hard to get those. I mean, things solidified. I mean, there's drummers that get it done, but if you have time with it, I feel like you're
Yeah.
increasing the ability of it just being better, like turning out better, because you have time to actually like if something changes, like, okay, let me practice the shit out of that first before I like go track it. But if it's programmed, like, you get time to just put kind of like whatever you got down and then like practice it over so that I get live, it sounds like great.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
Yeah, I think if y'all are doing that on your own, that's fucking sick, because all the tracks that I've like been listening to, especially the new ones that it's probably the most recent thing I've like been kind of just putting on repeat, sound really fucking good. Like do you guys do all like the production stuff as well? Like there's a lot of like big sounding like sound in there,
Yeah.
other than like the instruments. Who kind of like does that?
It's like it's not even. It's a little bit from us, and then somebody else, and then another person. Like my roommate is really big. My old roommate. I don't live with him anymore, but he was really big into. He does EDM stuff, and he's really good. So he'll go through it, layer it. Then Jojo Centiano, he used to live out here in Arlington. This is who we tracked like the EP in 2018 with, and that's the guy I still write with. I get on FaceTime and write with him, so I'll send him back. We'll send tracks back, and he'll add production. So that's 3 people that go through it.
Yeah.
And then now the last 2 songs, whenever we go get it mixed, the guy we send to get mixed to, we also have his production guy go over it again.
Yo,
So like
okay.
4 people just went over that, and that's usually how the production gets built out.
That's fucking insane. It's cool that you have people that you trust to add like production onto. Like now, like I mean, you've worked with them before, because that's always like. It's always my like hesitation when I was in a band. I'm like, oh, like finding someone that I trust, like to add stuff to it, because usually like, and it was also like a bit of an ego thing, like that I used to have. I'm like, oh, it doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where like, oh, it probably would have sounded cool with like some extra shit in there. You start seeing like other stuff, but finding like people to collaborate with. How did I know JoJo's got like a good like reputation, so I'm sure when you guys went with them, it was word of mouth kind of got around. With everybody else that you work with, how did you guys find those people?
Well, my roommate is my other roommate. He was my brother's friend, so I've known him for like 15 years, and just him and I kind of started music productions, sounded like at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're just now at a point where we're just good enough to add tracks on. Like he
okay.
just started adding stuff on with the songs that came out this year. And same with the guy that we paid to get with mixing with his production guy.
Okay.
I think it's just really, you kind of just meet people along the way. And they eventually show you that they're worth your time. It's at least, and then it also helps, I think, as I've gotten farther into it and older, to let go and let other people touch it more. I feel more okay to just say, okay, I've done what I can do now. At least from what I can do from a mental standpoint, I'm not overdoing it too much because I'm biased towards it, obviously. So eventually, I'm like, I don't know if what I'm adding is good anymore.
Get to the point where like you're too close to it a little bit.
Yeah, then I pass it on. So now I started passing it on, and actually passing it on has helped me when it comes back to me. I actually can get it farther along than what I did beforehand because I've kind of picked up on the tricks that the people added on based on what I had beforehand.
Yeah, I feel like that's the big thing with like collaborations and working with other people is that you end up like learning a lot more of what to do and seeing it again. You see a song for so long through you listen to it through only your ears and like see the whole project like through only like your eyes, and you think like you get to a point I feel like where like this is the only way this song can go, and you like that's as far as like your brain goes, and then somebody else comes in and like does something with it and you're like that would have never occurred to me, and you end up creating something fucking dope. But with that exchange you end up learning more things like okay, then you start seeing stuff like that. That's why like working with multiple people I think is really cool, because you pick up on everybody's kind of like tricks and then outside opinions are just like really good, like just a second like set of like ears on like something.
Yeah, and I don't think I think professional music is meant to be done in a collaboration anyway. You look at like the biggest artists, like doesn't matter whose names are on it. There is at least 4 or 5 people usually, like in the room making beats or like passing it back and forth.
That's like, that's true. I've seen a few like little breakdowns of even like beats, and I'm like, oh, people collaborate like on making beats. Like someone made a part of it, someone else added like tiny little things, but like when you go back and look at it, I'm like, I mean, it made a difference. Like even if it's like little like it's usually like if it's like little stuff being added, it's still that outside thing that you weren't gonna do, but now like it's in the song because like somebody saw it. You didn't see it, but that works. The EDM thing like sounds like a really cool set of ears to look at like into especially like music, because like that huge sounding stuff is like one thing like that EDM's like really like good for. Like I've just seen like live videos of like concerts and stuff, and like those drops, those build ups, and all these things like sound fucking huge and all these things. So adding that sort of production onto like metal or like metalcore, like what y'all are doing, like that's a really unique like thing it's a really cool combination of the two, I think, and it just works out perfectly, I think, in the music y'all put out. As far as so Threnody started back, you said you went through a few other projects before you got to Threnody?
Yeah, what we got Between the Existence.
Yeah, we had never played a show, and then we tried
a bedroom metalcore band.
Then we started another bedroom metalcore band a year later that also didn't, which was actually 3/4 of Threnody now.
Oh, really?
But we had, actually it was all of the original Threnody lineup from 2015, plus another guitar player, but we just couldn't make it work at the time. And then, so we stopped for a little while, and then him and I picked it back up. And then we just slowly brought the other two in the fold. I think the problem was we didn't have any music at the start. We were trying to write it together, and we just couldn't get together to write it. So eventually, I just started writing it. He just started writing stuff, and then when we had enough songs, then we just kind of brought him back into the fold.
Gotcha. Yeah, like learning to write with other people is interesting,
especially when you don't know how to write at all.
That might make it a little harder.
Literally, we had not written like. I wouldn't say we had written songs like in our just jamming them. I would say it's not a real song, at least to me, and how I can process it for my stuff without it being a recorded demo to reference back to, because that lets everybody internalize the song. I think in a way that lets us process it and make it better later. Not that you can't do it the other way. I think you definitely can. Just the way we work, we weren't able to do it.
Yeah, you can. But the one thing I found with like doing recordings, just like pre-production and even just like demos for stuff, is that when you're playing, you're a lot focused on what you're doing, and then sometimes you don't hear the song as a whole. So when it's recorded, one, you can have that shit on loops and just it's going over and over and over in your head, so you learn every intricate part of it. And then you get to see the song as the entire thing, like not just like I'm focused on what I'm playing, and sure I might hear something over here, but I'm not really fully paying attention to it because you're doing something like at the same time. But if you just sit down and listen to a version of the song, even if it's not complete, but it's an actual like finished version of it to listen to, and be like, oh, then you're like, maybe this doesn't need to be here, maybe this can do this instead. But it's a way clearer thing to do. One thing that I used to like do all the time, because I used to play in a band called Under Oblivion, and I did like vocals.
Yeah,
and
I think we played with you a couple times.
Yeah,
actually.
at least so. Yeah. But I love that when we started doing that. When I started getting like it didn't even matter like how it sounded. I was like, I just need to know all the parts to this stuff. I need to put it together, and I would just loop it. And even if we wrote it one time, like in one day, and then I had it looped, then by practice, everybody, like that was my thing. Everybody now knows what the structure of it is. It's like, and then we can at least play through like a little easier than having to like in person be like, oh, okay, so what are we playing like after this part? It's like a harder breakdown.
I forgot that part. Like it's like, hey, we wrote this. What was this part last time we wrote? I forgot it. Like even if you record it with your phone videoing, it's
anything. So you're able to listen to it, because then I would do that, and I would break it down in my own way, make my own outline to stuff, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, this is for me. This is like what the part is, so I would understand it, and I'm like, then we would get everybody on the same page. Like this is what we have here. And we can easily cross stuff off, change stuff, but it's easier to like work on it after you've heard like a complete version of it. The thing about drums, missing, sometimes you only have a scratch guitar, and I'm like, okay, you think the song's going one way, you add drums and it's going a completely different way. So it made everybody kind of get on the same page about it, and it's like, okay, this is where we take off from here. But yeah, writing, if you're learning how to write and then have a bunch of like people trying to do it like their own way, and then no one really knows like their way, I feel like that would make it super difficult at the beginning.
It was hell, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. But you know what I sent them the other day? Have you heard of a Chat GPT?
Chat GPT? No.
It's like an AI bot. Like you ask whatever, and then it like tells you.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen these things.
So I asked it the other day, like, how do you write like a really good progressive metalcore song in like a modern like day structure? And it gave me like steps, like you gotta do this, you gotta like come up with the melody,
too.
Maybe write a drum line, do a little bass, and then add synths, and then add vocals, make it catchy, like legit steps. And it's like, holy shit, that's the sauce right there.
It gave chord modes to try, like all this weird ass details. I'm like, but this is legit information. I can copy that. You can literally hand this to somebody, and that is a map on how to make
a metalcore
song.
Yeah. And then I asked it like, how do I write a song in the style of like Silent Planet or some shit like that? And then it tells you, oh, you gotta write like deep, like thought-provoking lyrics, like you gotta be intricate with your rhythms, like write in 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever.
Dude, AI is fucking wild, man. Like everything it's being capable of. I've seen like stuff like that where like it's like, oh, like I've seen it with movies, like, oh, write this type of movie, and then like it's a script, and I'm like, it's not bad. Like it's pulling like stuff, but
legit.
Yeah, I wonder what like the, I guess, functional capacity will be. Like I feel like right now it's learning and like getting a lot of like playful stuff. Like you get like the AI art stuff and things like that, and just like stuff like that. But I'm wondering like what's gonna be like the cool thing that comes out of AI, like out of it.
So there's a cool thing I've seen recently. There's like this YouTube channel, and they have like a live broadcast of 24 hours of like this gent generator. So pretty much this guy like recorded all types of like gent like tropes, like like a pitch bend or like recording every single fret, every single note, and the AI generator gets all those samples and puts it together in a palatable like song, like actual structures. It's crazy.
Really? What the fuck?
Yep. Synthesizes all those gent riffs and everything, just makes them into complete songs forever.
Man, that's so wild. And I think I've seen some stuff like that with music, and seen that you can get AI generated just like actual like entire songs like made, and it's kind of wild. And I'm wondering if like to what extent like that's gonna get to, you know what I mean? Like as I don't think it'll ever like make like people writing music obsolete, but it's like, way distant future, like who knows, like it's like, oh, I need a new pop song, and it's like, boom, done. Like, all right,
I can like write you a pop song, and then you get inspired by it, and then you build upon it.
See, I think that's the way it's gonna be used, because I've even seen like that with like AI art, where like it does something, and then someone was like, oh, okay, like they go back and manipulate it, and now it's like an actual like a nice art.
I love
piece.
AI art.
AI art is wild.
I liked AI art not before this latest craze with the face one.
Yeah.
There's a website called Night Cafe, and you can just go type in the randomest shit, and like you can put it like you can choose all these different filters for it, and it'll just pop you out some weird, wacky looking stuff.
I like some of the. I like a lot of the abstract AI art because it's
really
cool.
abstract stuff. Yeah,
that shit was really really cool. Like to look at. I think that was my first introduction to like AI, like anything AI, which I was like trying to understand, and I'm like, okay, like I mean, I kind of get it. Yeah. But I thought that was so cool, and then at first I was like, oh, it's just like kind of weird, just cool looking, and then now seeing like where it's going, I was like, oh, it's doing like some wild shit now. Like I was like, okay.
Yeah. I think it'll make songs eventually.
I think it's gonna make so many things.
There's already like AI stuff out there, services that will mix your song or whatever. It's not very good, but I imagine eventually it will become a software tool plugin that you sell to people like music producers and engineers, and they will use that to make songs.
Yeah,
I feel like at least as a starting point.
I think that's what it's gonna do. It's gonna like give you a jumping off point. You know what I mean? Like like what you're saying, a starting point. Like it'll go through and give you your first whatever, like mix or whatever. I'm like, okay, it's got a lot of stuff done. I just have to go in and tweak in a little bit. It's just what I feel like it's gonna get to. I don't think it'll ever like be the thing to be creative, because I think it takes
you can't
the spirit out of it. You know what I mean? Out of writing music.
You're right. And like we just said, with writing, it'll give you like a song point or somewhere to start, and then you can rewrite. You can change the whole song through after that if you want, but it'll give you a starting point anyway, like a pops. I don't know.
That's right. I don't know. I immediately jumped out. I was like, I'm sure it's gonna take over on that, like on pop music especially.
With simple structures like that, just like
it's just like, oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, you gotta be able to, like, you gotta get really creative with it. Like it's gotta get sophisticated enough to utilize people's samples properly, which I feel like it's gonna take forever.
That's gonna take a while
before that happens, because you don't want it just to pump out you a song in whatever format.
Yeah, because it's gonna take the heart out of it, man.
Yeah.
Like you still need like someone in there writing like the actual music, and giving it like specific meaning. I'm the way I'm thinking of it. Maybe I'm anti-machine. I don't know.
Yeah, man, it's cool to talk. I think it's interesting. Like, I mean, obviously you can use it to take over, like to help out, but it can't ever replace the real brain.
The wild thing I heard about it, someone was like, it was an AI generated. The idea was like AI generated like movie scripts, and then with like deep fakes and shit happening, like it won't even be like the actual actors anymore. Like you'll just cast whoever and then just keep making. Some of them are getting like crazy, dude. Like
they're
them
like
deep
on
fakes.
the cusp of like being actually like you can't tell the difference between AI and
they're very close. Like it's absolutely insane. And I'm like, they're pretty much like not gonna be able to like verify something. It's gonna take like a lot to verify like all these shit.
There's nobody else is ever gonna play Luke Skywalker's face. Like they're gonna use Mark Hamill's deep fake, Mark Hamill's deep cut face. They might get a new voice when he passes away, but even that, there's AI voice now. Like they actually signed off for James Earl Jones to use his Darth Vader voice as AI generated voice going forward now, and like. I think everything in the Obi-Wan show was AI generated.
Yeah,
like they took all his clips beforehand, kind of put it in there, and then I think just basically
gathered all his data,
that voice data and recreated it, and that's what they used. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm 99% sure that he's retired and he signed off on them using it.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah, and I saw like a Joe Biden meme where it's like they have the AI voice of him just saying the stupidest shit. It was fucking funny.
That's the thing. Like it's really fucking funny, and then you're like, oh, okay. Then you like, if you really like look at it, I was like, oh, the voice stuff, that's fucking hilarious. Like you can make him say whatever, and then you're like, oh, you can make him say whatever. Like,
whatever. Like
hold up. And not only like them, it's like, oh, they can make me say whatever. You know what I mean?
Countries against each other and shit.
You gotta have like anti voice hacking software to make sure that's AI.
I'm fucked. I've been doing a podcast. This guy they can easily get all my voice clips.
You can AI eventually. You could AI generate this entire podcast.
Nobody will be here.
And you just you can put like a non-video podcast, put it up on Spotify, but it's only just AI. It's you talking to yourself to AI generated voices.
Oh god.
There was a stream on Twitch. It was like an AI channel that was AI generating episodes of Seinfeld.
Oh,
Like,
what the? Oh, wait, no,
I don't know if you
yeah.
heard of it. Yeah. It got banned recently because it said some dumb joke. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't even bad. But
Yeah.
basically, it learns from the Seinfeld episodes and just like it started creating them. They were pretty shit at first. Like the jokes are kind of like hit or miss, but like as it progressed, it started getting like more like, oh shit, these are actually funny.
Like, these are funny,
these
yeah.
are well written scripts, and like everything is AI generated, even the visuals too, like the models and stuff.
Yeah. I think I saw like some of the clips of that, and I'm like, this sounds like the show. Like if it was like still being made, like
Some
this
of
would
it's
be
actually good.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. But you know, Threnity's not gonna be AI generated. All right, y'all are
Not
working
for a
on
while.
shit.
We're working on it.
Right? It's in the
We
work.
just sit back. He's just like,
I was
all
thinking
right.
sit back and watch from the crowd.
It's gonna be fucking AI generated. You'll have your own fucking hologram up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I generate
Sick.
that hologram up there.
The hologram.
Yeah.
That's wild. Those are things, man. Like fucking future, man. I don't know why I went on an AI tangent, but it's like
that's the real shit right there. It's interesting, I think.
it's super interesting. But what y'all like? So y'all put out like the 3 singles last year that I saw. But what are you like currently like working on?
We're working on. We got 2 more songs in the works that I know of. One we're trying to get mixed and mastered, so we're gonna do a music video for it soon. Then another we gotta take it into the studio a little bit more, maybe do a couple things here and there.
Yeah, you have to track vocals on the second one still.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we just did
Yeah, we just tracked vocals for the first one last month of the 2 singles.
Yeah.
That are upcoming, and then we still got track vocals for the other one. But then the songs are basically done other than vocals. They've already been production and everything. It's already been done on them.
Yeah, so it's just those 2, and then at some point we're gonna get together to write a little EP, little concept EP.
Yeah, concept. Yeah, I got some.
Oh, the concept
yeah,
EP,
I got
okay.
like 2 or 3 demos for that, and then he's gonna write some stuff, and I'm gonna write some more, and then we're gonna take it and get my EDM roommate friend, and we're just gonna get in a room and just go through all those demos at the same time to try to give them all the same feel. It'll still get released as singles probably, but it'll come out as like when it finishes, it'll only be an EP when it finishes the singles cycle.
So okay, so that's a good talk. I've hit that topic a few times, but is that what you guys feel like kind of helps you guys out the most is releasing stuff as singles?
Yeah. It's like even if you want to put out the EP, it's just like to do it properly costs too much money at once. I view it as like you can write all the demos near each other, whatever, but then you'll handle each song as a step-by-step process for a while anyway, because singles I think are just the way people consume in a better way. You can put more money into it. Like we try to put more high quality songs and material out instead of putting a lot of songs out at a time.
And not being able to kind of release them the way.
Yeah, I'd rather come out 3 songs in a year that have been mixed properly, written properly, good visuals, content through it, and it all gets their own time, than spend this kind of the same amount, but all at once, and only one of them get heard at the one time.
That's the thing that I've looked at, and like I argue with myself back and forth about it, because I'm like, yeah, I love releasing like a whole like project all at once, but then I look at it from the standpoint of actually like being in a band and playing and like trying to maintain like relevancy like throughout the year, because you drop that project and it could be like really fucking good and it's still like drowned out so soon, like because there's so much shit just coming at you. And like the way people like one thing you mentioned, the way people consume things is like in short amounts like of time. Like it's like, oh, you listen to one thing and like, okay, like I'm on, like I want to see the next thing. It's the whole like scrolling thing, like, oh yeah, I'm scrolling from one thing to the other. And it's kind of the same with like music sometimes. So like, oh, you'll hear something and you even like love it and still like, oh, I heard it that one time that I ran through it, or maybe I picked the one song that I liked out of it, and then the rest of it gets nothing. If you do singles, you kind of like, oh, you do one single, roll that out like really well, like with your visuals, like all these pieces of content. Then by the time that one's like dwindling down, you can drop another one, and like, you have like your name could be out there for the entire year. Be based on one project you did together and just spread it out. And plus, like again, you'll get to release it in like a little cooler ways and dedicate more time to, if you're not ready like here to do all the ideas you want to do, okay, we can wait a few more months and now like that one's ready to go.
I think those bigger projects releases are better for bands that have a bigger draw for anyway. Like, I think singles are mostly from getting new fans. And the rest of the album is for the people that are already listening to it, usually.
Who are gonna listen to it.
Yeah, your fans are gonna listen to the album, but new people aren't gonna listen to the album, right? Unless they've maybe been hooked in by one of the bunch of singles you drop out going into, or a lot of bands just release literally everything as a single, and then the last one is just the combination of all coming out, like with physicals or how they brand it after that. But it's technically the same thing, because people put the single when they release a single on Spotify, they put the last two singles or
on the same
thing. And I actually really like that, because I get in there and I missed a couple singles and I press it. Oh, I'm just gonna go down and listen to all the songs that they just put out that I missed. Even if it's a band whether it's a band I know or don't, like, even if I missed, they put out 2 songs, I just now saw that they put that stuff out. I
really like that they started doing that, because before, when it was just singles releasing and it was just, that's it, so every single had its own individual thing you had to go to. I couldn't listen to all the new ones together, or that was my thing. I was like, that's why I like albums, because I can listen to it in whatever order. And now that you can release one single, when you release the next one, the other one's still there, in the same album under the same artwork or whatever, you know what I mean? So you can go down and listen to the list. That's one thing I started enjoying. I'm like, oh, cool, because I do want to listen to the new ones, but I don't want to have to go to each individual one or set them on a playlist myself to be able to listen to them. If they're all there, then I'm like, oh, okay, this works out a lot better. Because initially, it was annoying to be like, I want to play all the new songs, so I had to add them all on some sort of playlist. So cluttered
on Spotify too. It looks like I can't even tell what I'm trying to go through their discography, hit all. I'm like, okay, what the fuck was released this? What is the single lineup from the current stuff they're trying to push right now?
Yeah,
and sometimes it's so hard to find, because they organize it sometimes by, it's popularity.
By popularity,
it's not. But then if you get in there, eventually, you can get it in a chronological order. But it's just I don't know. I just have to go scroll through this, and they have 5 albums, and you go down, and then they have maybe 18 fucking single releases down there. It's I don't know what.
The thing that's weird that I noticed is that they put EPs under the singles. Have you noticed that? They have the albums tab at the top, and then EPs are always among the single stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know why they do that.
Multiple listed, I feel like they should just be up there.
Yeah, if it's a body release work and official, it should be on the album thing.
That's one thing I'm
EP shouldn't be on the singles. I think. I don't know why they do that.
EPs deserve the respect, okay?
Yeah. That's most people don't put out, they're putting out EPs now for a lot of things.
I think it's cool. To write EPs. Obviously, albums, first of all, would take a lot of work. So it's time consuming again. And it takes more money, more time, and when you're, just trying to write stuff, it kind of holds you back a while, and it's because you're waiting for it to become a entire project, and depending on that. So EPs I like EPs because they you get to express whatever that music that you wanted to write in a short form. Okay, if you want to write 3 to 5 songs or something like that, all within the same genre that's hitting right now, then you can put it out, instead of you write that stuff, and by the time you get to release an album, you're I don't really that's not where our head is at,
the head isn't there. And you kind of I feel like most people, you just need to grow into putting an album out. I think EPs are good. Spirit Box just put out their first album last year, right? But they've been around since 2017. And if you go through their Spotify thing, it's just singles for 5 years until they got popular enough and to put out an album.
So now they're probably in that space where they know what they want an album to be like. You know what I mean? Which takes time to learn that. And EPs gets you a way to you're still writing creative. EPs and singles, I'm you can still keep writing music, but you don't have to wait to this giant project. And I feel it's daunting a little bit, where it's it's all got to make sense, and then it delays it more and more. That was my one beef with our band, is that when we put out our EP, and this is just an EP, we're just terrible. The newest song on there was 3 years old. And I was we were so far behind, and I'm and then we kept doing. Then the 2 singles we released after that were 2 years old. We're terrible putting this shit out.
Sometimes it does take a while to get the songs out, because you want it has to meet a certain standard, right? You have to, for you to be happy with it. And Yeah, literally the only thing I've learned is just the faster you can get it out, usually the better. Like,
Yeah,
and you do that just by being singles, right? But it still takes us a while. Like Bleeding Hands, we put out a year ago now.
Yeah.
That song was written right before written, recorded, produced, fully ready, except for a music video right before the pandemic.
Really?
And then it didn't come out for 2 years because we waited to do videos properly because pandemic. Basically delayed the song coming out by like a year and a half.
Wow.
Because we would have done the music video probably a couple months after the pandemic started, but then nobody was doing anything.
Yeah. So you would you wouldn't have been able to put it out though, like again the way you wanted to, and it's all like you always end up like regretting when you start like cutting and taking like shortcuts with it. And it's like, oh, let's just do this, and then you go back and I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to give it like the proper release and like respect that your track goes. Actually, a cool thing, you guys have worked with I can't remember which video, but you guys work with Bad Mantra.
Yeah, the newest one, Don Burger.
Yeah. So he used to go by Timekeeper Media, and he recorded he did our like music video.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, because I was looking, I'm like Bad Mantra. I was like, that's the new name of it. I was like, oh yeah.
I didn't know that. That's wild.
Yeah, I was
that's
like,
cool.
oh, it's a weird connection. Yeah, because is he still out of Austin?
Yeah, he lives in Austin. He drove up to Dallas the day we did the video shoot. Yeah,
it's the same thing like he did for us. Yeah, he's a super cool guy to work with. He was really nice because it was our first music video and we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
Like, even that wasn't our first music video, but we still kind of like we were a little overambitious with it. I still think, but it still turned out really good. It
turned out really good.
Yeah. Which is fine. Most of the things we cut don't matter to anybody else, but it's all about at the end of the day. As long as the music video looks good and it looks like you can watch through it without cringing, it's good.
Look through it without cringing.
And I can't say that about any other video we put out beforehand. So before that,
really,
working with him,
why?
I just like some of the other videos. I don't think came out very well. Maybe with how the planning wasn't proper. Like in communication probably with the people we were working with, which just wasn't done properly. But that's just something you learn as time goes on.
It's another thing. It's the same thing with like finding people like to mix your songs and produce on them. Same thing with like visuals. Like you have to find how to work with them. And like I said, for me, that first music video, like he was super nice because the idea was to do a storyline with it. So it was like one performance like day and one was a storyline day. The idea was in here, and I'm like, we're doing it this way, but we're literally like, he should have been more pissed at us, but I was like, because I'm like, oh, I guess we can use these locations and all that stuff. So there's no planning beforehand, and now like that we do like our own like thing here. I'm like, oh, you have to plan like how the lighting's gonna work and all these things, the type of camera shots we're gonna do, and he like knocked it out of the park. And I was like, thank you so much for like working with us, like because I was again it was one of those really ambitious things, and I'm like that I was like, oh, this story it didn't seem like that hard to me from the outside, but I'm not a filmmaker, so I'm like, this should be pretty easy. And then once I was seeing like him work, and I'm like, oh, this is hard as shit. I'm really sorry I put you through this. But he was like nice. He's like, like, if you ever want to work again, you want to do something like this, like it's like just let me know earlier and we can work on a storyboard with it. Like it's doable. It's not like it just makes the process easier. I'm like, yes, like okay.
Yes. We were able to do that with him. I think it was just a little bit more in the time organization. We did it all in one day, so he could go back to Austin. Yeah. And we kind of ran out of daylight, so some things got cut from the story section. Because we did the band section first, and then we did the story. But I mean, he still knocks it out of the park. I just told him, just whatever's usable, make it work. We got especially that was a brutal recording day because we went out to the woods in Roy City to record it, and we didn't get mosquito spray early enough, and we literally got.
Shit.
It was
massacre. I've never in my life experienced something as bad as that. That day was like hundreds of mosquitoes flying around us.
Shit.
I'm surprised none of us got West Nile virus from that shit. So we all came out healthy at the end of it. But
West Nile.
I had just got my hair cut at the back, and my hair gets shaved pretty low when I get my hair cut. My sides do, so my whole back of the head was covered in red bumps from mosquitoes.
What the fuck,
you got fucked up.
I had put aloe vera gel on the back of my head. It was bad. That's what I did.
No.
I rubbed it right into the back of my hair, all this, and it kicked ass. It definitely did the job, but yeah, it was painful.
Oh my god, that sounds so fucking terrible.
Yeah, it was brutal, man.
shit like that you just kind of have to like roll with. I mean, you're already out there. It's like, what are we gonna do? You can't do shit about it now. You know, you're just like,
no. We eventually got mosquito spray halfway through the day, but the damage was mostly done by that point.
The damage is done.
It made the rest of the shoot pleasant, but the first half was fucking miserable.
fuck.
And it was in April. This is the end of April, like right before, like April 28th or 9th or something. So it was right before May. So it was actually hot that day.
Yeah.
So.
Holy shit. But no, yeah, the videos turned out like really good. You guys have several like music videos, but I like that that's a thought in the process of like, oh, we're writing this music, but we're also like looking at like how it gets released like properly, which now like it's kind of obligatory like to figure out like, oh, this is a song and like what content are we putting out like with all this stuff. Like it's one thing that like I talk with a few people about. It's like, oh yeah, it seems like content creators, like the new label, like every like musician has to have either that or you have somebody like that does it. But for the most part, the DIY like way is the best to do. So somebody on the team like knowing how to do that, and figuring out like what's the, not only how to like make that stuff, but like what's the stuff that it's gonna cater like to you. It used to I used to hate thinking about that shit. I'm just like, I just want to fucking play music
for real.
And just,
Yeah.
like,
I still hate it, but I still think about it every day because it's like I have to think about it. It's like, well, it's all part of the package, and I want it to come off. I want it to come out properly, right? I don't want it to come out. I just don't want to drop it half-assed.
Yeah.
Like with the money we're putting into it, because we're not. It's not cheap putting it, especially the way we're doing it. So I'm like, well, if we're doing it, we're already putting in this much money. Yeah. Why are we just gonna just drop it and let it flop?
I think it's just giving. I think it's just giving it the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it definitely just again, it just puts into perspective like what it matters to you. So when people see like, you know, finished products and not only like your music, like, oh, the music sounds really fucking good. Oh, like, you know, the music video that did really fucking good. You know, merch that you put out, like whatever, like all this stuff is still a reflection of you, like at the end of the day. So like that's why like when I see like, you know, for example, like merch, and I see like you know, a shirt, and it's like, you know, I want to support, so I'm normally like, everybody's gonna like buy something because like if they like what they saw, they're gonna go support no matter what. I go, the thing is like when in our band, I'm like, I invested a little more to like make sure the t-shirt was like a nice one, and I'm like, it's gonna cost more. I go, but people will actually wear it, and like and you know, that's another way of like just promoting your band. So I've bought shirts, or I just bought like to support, but I'm like, oh, I don't wear those shirts, like
they're uncomfortable.
So like stuff like little things like that is like something else that you kind of have to like think about, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's not only like pushing product, you're not product pushers, because every one of the things that you put out is a reflection of y'all as a whole. So it is a thing that has to be constantly like in your head,
and it takes a lot of work. I mean, we finally, I feel like, got the rhythm down of the process of how we make songs and progress and evolve sonically. That is a pretty good play. Like we know how to run that now. Now the thing is conquering visuals and merch.
Yeah,
those, which are whole other different battles to make sure you have them, because it's also, you know, money in that area you have to put too to do it properly. It's not so you can come up with all the ideas, but you still have to, you know, send out the cash to get it to make it happen. But it's about planning it out properly, so that way you allot your funds, you know, financially, so you can get everything out in time and know what. Oh, the song was coming out next week. We fucking forgot. We need to do a shirt or whatever. So it's like, and that's not to say we haven't done that, because we have, but it's knowing that you how to properly space everything so you can get it all out at once without it feel like overwhelming.
It's a learning process, like as you go, and I mean, you, like I said, y'all have been around for a minute, so I'm sure like in that time, like y'all have learned like how to do things like in a more organized way, or what works for y'all, like what like how do we need to do stuff, communication, like even like learning how to do that between like band members is just like enough, like you know, how does everything get communicated? Because before, like I've had the issue where we like had a group chat, but like everything in a group chat would always end up in a fight, because out of just like out of context, like or not even out of context, but like without inflection. I'm like, some stuff like should not have been talked about in a group chat. It should have been talked in person, so you know how this person is saying this. And someone was always taking offense to something, and I'm like, I go, this is just for factual shit. Like just put like, what day are we playing shows? What day are we practicing? Like what needs to be done? Anything having to do with like the direction of a song or something like that. I go, let's talk in person, because everybody was like defensive about their ideas, and so I was like, we're not talking shit. Like we're trying to like write a good song. Like that's it.
Yeah, and it takes a lot, especially when everybody wants the hand in making the song as good as possible. And yeah, like that's why I said earlier that it's almost like this band it's in a different iteration now, even though it's the same kind of mostly the same people. It's because a lot of those lessons you learn through your first few bands.
Yeah.
Like you start a band in high school, then you start another band in high school, and then you start another band in college, and then you get the band that you want at the very end of it. But I feel like, instead of just doing that, we just stayed under one name and just evolved as people with each other. And instead of finding a new band, we just stayed with the same band.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you could have been like different bands if you like really wanted to, but just rather treat it as like an evolution of the band instead. Yeah,
I think that's just the way I look at it, because how we do everything is completely different now than what we did when we first started, Like the way we write, not necessarily the way, but the process and how we flow it and structure how we move to the next thing is different and just a lot more sophisticated. It makes more sense than kind of, a lot of the lessons, and that's from learning the lessons early when we first started this band.
Yeah.
So,
when it comes to like your lyric writing, Austin, what kind of? I know they're normally like pretty intense topics. Do you have something you normally stick to stuff, or what's like? Let's say on like the last releases, like what was like the main theme of that?
I like to stick to like introspective kind of things. I think for the last one, I was really inspired by like these animes like Mob Psycho, and
Mob Psycho's so good.
Yeah, Mob Psycho's so good.
Yeah.
Just like, I guess for the last release in particular, the acceptance of like the personal shadow, like the dark side of everybody. Like everybody has that dark side, and accepting that part makes you whole. So I kind of wanted to like touch upon that theme of just becoming one with yourself, one with your dark side. So just things like that, like real introspective topics I like to peer into. And I think for our newer stuff, I want to explore more on things like Elden Ring topics. Like, I don't know if you ever played like From Software games, but the quests, like side quests, even like the main storylines, they're really introspective and deep, really detailed. And I kind of want to like apply that to the music because I think it's interesting. Just stuff that I find interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool because those are like unique ways to like find like to get yourself to write like different things. It's like you can tackle certain topics, but there's something like that I think is like a nice way to get into like what inspires you, like the anime stuff. Like I mean, people do it like with movies and animes and stuff like that all the time, but the introspective stuff is always like neat and interesting to me because it's a conversation that's being had like inside of everybody like every like day. You know what I mean? Like people. It's the stuff like, and I just go through like I have moments where I'm literally like going through something and thinking about it, and I'm like in a space, and I put myself in like not crowded places, but I go out and I just like look at people. I'm like, same shit that's happening to me could be happening to like other person, and like I'm not showing it on the outside. I go, but it's going on. Like these things are like really going on literally at all times. Like these conversations.
Yeah, there's a word for it. I forgot what it is, but it's like the sudden realization that everybody is living an intricate and like detailed life just as much as you have experience. Just the realization of that is just like it's crazy.
Well, it's wild. Yeah, it's wild to think, and it gets away from me sometimes where I'm like, oh, this is all about. Like me, and I get because like I remember like when the phrase like, oh, like they're definitely the main character of like the story, and I'm like but everybody's their own main character. Like you have no like every single thing that you think everybody else is thinking, I go is probably wrong. Like you know what I mean? Like the only thing for sure is the thing like that like that that's why like stuff with like perspectives and like seeing things from other people's like point of views is so critical and important because. It's a realization that I had when I was looking at topics, and I had real like hard opinions on certain things, and I'm like, I am only looking at this whatever through the lens of like what I've gone through, like my upbringing, like who I've talked to, my friends, everybody around, what circle I'm in, like realizing that sometimes you are in a bubble, like and then like everything. You're stuck in a feedback loop sometimes, so what you're saying is just coming back right at you, and that's why you stick around with those people. And then it's like the podcast for me is like been really cool because I get to talk to some people, like I agree with them, and some people I don't, and then sometimes I just like it opens my eyes to like different ways to looking at stuff. Yeah. And that's like those realizations are so like interesting to me, and I'm just like, yeah, like oh okay, everybody else is having that. Like I had that. I remember like one of my big ones was realizing. I remember the day I realized like, oh, like my mom's just like a person, just like me. You know what I mean? Like they're just not. There's nothing to your parents that say like, oh yeah, they are parents, so they need to know how to do parent shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? They're just like, it's just a person that just like has a kid now, and then you have to figure stuff out. Everybody's just figuring it out. You know what I mean? No one knows the thing, but the introspective messages in songs are difficult, but I think I think a lot of people, once they like read lyrics and look at like what the songs are about, like really find themselves like relating to a lot of that stuff like pretty easily.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll be ambiguous with it. Like I won't have a clear like specific message or direction that I'm going for with certain lines, but I kind of like that because it just adds like the own personal interpretation of that line, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To that specific person that's listening.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Like once you release music and or anything, you know, art in general, like once you release it, that interpretation, even whatever if you wrote it with a purpose, like somebody else like is now in charge of like that interpretation, like whatever they got from it, whatever, you know, memory triggered for them, or like what immediately related to them because of a line or something in it. It's kind of out of your control now, so like it's really it's a really neat thing with art, because like you'll have people talk about your song and you're like, that's not what I wrote it about, but it's interesting that somebody else literally put like their own perspective on it. And it's a really cool interaction that you have with like whoever's listening, you know, the consumer, the fan, or whatever, that they get to experience it like in their own, you know, way.
Yeah, they resonate with it differently depending on who they are and what they've experienced in their lives. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, like I think it's again something that why music is like a community based thing, and it's so cool that even like if you go see your favorite band and you went by yourself, but like you're among like a crowd of like, hey, everybody like went, and this artist like hit for them for some maybe similar reason that it you know hit for you, but we're all here like in the same place.
There's
like
a commonality between y'all.
Yeah, it's so fucking neat. I used to be so like intimidated to talk to people at like concerts and stuff like that or shows. And I'm just like, bro, we're all here. Like we're literally here seeing the same band. I'm sure we have something in common. Then I just start like you know hitting something. I'm like, oh cool, like
for
there's
real.
people out here. You know, even when you like feel isolated in like these thoughts, which again goes back to that introspective like main character thing, where sometimes you're like, I'm the only one feeling this, and it's like once you realize that like, oh no, like a bunch of people, like this shit that I'm going through is like common, like it's for lack of better words, like they're just basic like emotions, like it's not unique.
Yeah, and humans have been around for a minute, so
a little bit.
Someone throughout that time is bound to like have that same shared experience that you have. So
yeah, and I think music's a really cool way to express that.
Yeah.
To open that up and realize like, oh yeah, we're all just here chilling. I mean, fucking floating rock through space.
Floating around, man.
Truly.
We're all just here doing our things, trying to do
pretty
the
much
best.
That's all we're trying to do, man. Just trying to live
chill,
life and hippie, write some dope shit.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
What's been some of you guys played quite a bit. How was emo night the other night?
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I really wasn't expecting much. I was like, oh, it's just gonna be playing a show for people, whatever. I thought it would be worse because we were in like that side room, the Brazzers room.
Bronzos.
The Brazzers room.
The Brazzers room.
Yeah, I thought everybody would just be in the main room, which there are a lot more people in the main room than in our room, but there was still a good amount. There's like at least like 100, I think. Kind of felt like it.
Yeah,
in my mind.
it's. I didn't go to this past one. Like we were running a show, because I was like, oh, I want to go see it. But yeah, we had a show we were running that day, and but I went the one before. And it was like, it had maybe about like 100 people in there. They were like, oh, okay, everything, like there's 3 rooms, right? The big room, there's like the one that combines those 2 rooms.
Yeah.
But no, there's a shit ton of people that go out and like, it's a nice crowd to play to.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, dang, these are. Yeah. And some of them were pretty young too. I was like, oh shit, like the next generation of.
Yeah, there was the little mosh kid was out there.
Little mosh kid,
He was throwing it down. He like cleared out the pit. He was like doing like cartwheels and flips and shit.
I literally told him and his dad, I was like, any like shows that we do, is like, you just fucking come in here. Like I got you.
I gave him a free shirt too for the other night. We played with the Devil Wears Prada back in September.
Oh shit!
And he came. Little mosh kid was just there. He wasn't there, and there was a video of some people that took of him moshing during our set. So we put it up on Instagram back in December, and that shit's still getting views and it's still going through the algorithm. It's the only video, it's the only thing on our Instagram channel that has any interaction with it whatsoever. But like that, it has 3,000 likes right now, like 22,000 views, and it's still just getting like maybe 10. It's still getting likes through now, so it's still floating through the algorithms. If you look through the insights, it just says non-follower. So I don't. They're just keeping it floating.
It's like I mean, because they upload a lot, so I'm sure like every time like they get like if someone sees the newest video they do, it'll eventually bring up like every video.
Yeah, so it's funny because it's still coming up. And I mean, it got us a few followers. It's not really like it's one of those things that people like to share. They don't. It's not like something that makes them engage with like person, which is fine. It's just funny that it's up. So he found it, and then he enjoyed us coming out. So I was like, you come out to the next show. I'll give you a free shirt.
I love that. It's just literally a kid out there having fucking fun and like listening to music and being like into it. I'm like, that's fucking cool. Like, that's. That exposure just to like music in general, I'm like, I think that's so fucking great. When I and you talking about like the younger generation, one thing I like started noticing was after the pandemic, like seeing all these like new bands pop up and shit. I'm like,
for real.
And being able to like to I've talked to like some of the bands that are now like considered like I guess like the not the older, but like the big bros or everybody of like the little bands and like making sure that they're like come bring it, and it's a really cool thing to see in music in general. You know what I mean? Seeing the new generation of stuff, and I've always been like, sometimes I don't like understand all of it. It's like, but it's cool. Like I give it some time. You know what I mean? Because it's how it's always been. It's always new shit, and that's how like new concepts like come about, and it's really cool to see that it has no fucking way of stopping. Like it's gonna keep doing it like for fucking ever, and it's really tight to see, and new crowds and new fans. Because like I thought one thing that's funny, we played so my band had been broken up or whatever, but we played a show last year called 420 Takedowns, the festival that we threw. And the only reason we played was because we had one person drop, and I made the joke. I'm like, I was like, I guess we should have filled in. And then two people dropped, and we're like, okay, we might have to do this. So we did it, and it had been so long since we like started and like played in shows that we made new fans that day, and they're like, when you guys playing next? Like, and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Never.
Yeah, I was like, this was the last one. But it was so cool. I'm like, I go, yes, there's constant like new fans popping up, or new people that are coming out to shows and things like that. Which is why like it's important to like every show you're playing, like to play, your ass off, because like there's always that, few people, or if it's one person that becomes like an instant fan, that person's the one that's gonna go talk to people and bring more people to shows and all that shit. Yeah, word of mouth is fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's
networking.
It's cool. Like, people just find you randomly. Yeah. I've noticed. I think there's a more positive feedback at most shows now than pre-pandemic, just because everybody was locked in for a year and a half.
So you got taken away.
Yeah, you got taken away.
Yeah.
So now they appreciate it.
Yeah, they appreciate it. So the pandemic is a little bit far enough removed, I think, for the most part now, that it almost feels like kind of back to normal for the most part. So it's starting. I think it's starting the novelty again is starting maybe dip down a little bit, but it's still better than what it was before pandemic, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had crazy experience like negativity out on the scene and stuff, but
I wouldn't say I was anything negative either, but
like as of like you were saying, like I feel like I'm mostly around like positive like shit all the fucking time at shows, like and from all genres. I always say like that I was like super intimidated by like the hardcore scene a lot, and I'm not.
Well, it's pretty clicky over there.
It is, but like everybody, like when I like got into it, everyone's really fucking sweet, and I'm like, oh okay, like everyone's like super nice, and that I've talked to, it's real. It's a really nice like feeling, but like that with like then stuff with like shows when I was going to see like just bands, I'm like I need to like talk to some of these people and just see what it's like, and most people are like real receptive because you're talking about shit that they like. It's like, oh, like you like this band, I like this band, cool, let's talk about that, and just shit like that, just being more open. I think people are more open like to having those conversations out in like public now, and you're right, like when it got taken away, it's just like, oh shit, like when it came back, I was like full fucking force, and you were able to go to a fucking show and have like a fun time, not be stuck at home. That again, that sense of community always comes back. It's just like, this was a good time. Let's hang out together. and let's all listen to some music. And I feel like everyone's appreciating it, definitely.
I agree. Yeah, everything most of every gig just feels a lot better now in general. And I don't know, everybody's, I think it's, less of an asshole now than they used to be.
Yeah.
Like, not that anybody was ever, truly, I don't think anybody was an asshole to me, to be honest. So, but everybody feels a little bit more open because, like you said, it got taken away. So I think people just realized how much they enjoyed it. They were less jaded. I think at the end, before pre-pandemic, there was people were starting to get jaded a little bit just because you've been doing it for so long.
Mm.
And I don't know, after pandemic, it just feels like a refresher.
That's where I got to. I mean, like with music and like even like being in a band, I got to the point where like as simple as this idea is, like it should be fun. Like I shouldn't be dreading like playing or writing or this thing. I was like, it should always be fun.
Exactly.
And like in my last band, like we were all like, still friends, but it got to that point where we're like, oh, we're not writing what we like. And it was one thing, we were behind on our stuff, so everything we wanted to put out was like way back in the back burner because we were catching up. So we're not playing the music we wanted to like play, and it just felt like a chore at that point. Like, oh, we have to do this, you know what I mean? So it didn't feel fun. And so like now, like I'm working on something new, and I'm like, my number one priority now is I just want to write music and I want to play. And I'm gonna have fun. Like I'm not. That's why like the idea of EPs. Like I want like mine. I was like I want to write. I can even like write one EP for one genre, then just like write everything that I want to write and just split it up in EPs and play whatever fucking shows that I want to play, like with whoever.
Yeah, I think it's the way to do it.
But I think it's just like having fun. Like you gotta gotta like ride for your band. Like the shit that you like. You can play your songs and be like, this is a shit. Like, this is badass. Like, I will listen. Because as simple as that is, like, yeah, you should want to listen to your music and be like, yeah, this is good. And I was always like, someone was playing it, it's cringe, turn that off. Like, I don't want to listen to it.
That's how I felt pre-pandemic. I don't feel that way about ourselves anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I watch back our shows, and like, every show, we've played 5 or 6 shows, I think, since October 2021. So that's when we first started coming back into playing. And they've literally, every one of them have been a memorable show. I would say, like, there was a couple really, like, we played So What, played a self-recorded EP show, which was great. We just played Emo Night, played with Devil Wears Prada, so we just, Devil Wears Prada is probably one of my favorite shows of all time. It's my favorite metalcore band of all time.
Man, dude. That was a good show.
And that was at Southside Music Hall. So, right, we're in the same room as Emo Night. We just played on the big stage that night. But it's just everything just feels more fun. I just have a better attitude about it. I think just the break. I think the break, as much as it sucked to have everything taken away, I think it was actually beneficial for me mentally to reset on how I thought about everything. The music is easier to write nowadays. It's so much easier for me to write a song nowadays than before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I'd take fucking 2 weeks to a month to write a song.
Yeah.
And that's not bad. I think that's how a lot of people do when they're first starting out. It's because I kept going over the same parts over and over again, trying to perfect it. And now I just I write a song in 2 days,
like, let it go.
3 days max. I notice the faster I write, the better it comes out. And I just don't. I try to write with the mentality I'm writing for the trash. I heard it on a different podcast. The URM recording podcast. I don't know if y'all are into recording. It's a pretty good podcast. But Kevin Thrasher, who's from Escape the Fate, was on one episode, and he's like, yeah, I write for the trash. So I write anything. Whenever I write with the mind that I can just trash it no matter what happens. And then it usually ends up making the song come out better than if I was mentally. It's like a mental trick to make yourself think that there's no pressure in what you're doing. Yeah,
just the over analyzing, and like when you start like going over this part's not good enough, and then you start reworking, and then sometimes it leads to, like, again, like songs either not coming out or like they don't really get that much better than what like the original idea was. It's just like I was just going over it so much, and it eventually starts making it not fun. Like it's
I started dreading writing a song because I was like, I'm gonna spend a month trying to write this shit, and most of it I'm gonna feel like complete ass because I'm not writing what I feel like I should be writing or what I want to hear. Right, I can't get what I want to hear from my head out properly. And that's part of just experience as well, but I think it's also a mental thing too.
Knowing like when to just take a break from something. Like, because I've always been like a firm fucking believer of like, if this shit is too hard to write for me, like I'll just like not do it. Like it's got to be like, I can't be like forcing like, oh, it needs to sound like this. I need to figure this out now. I'm like, no, I could take a break from it. And then literally like maybe like in a few hours at most, you know, like come back and be like, oh, like get re-inspired and come back to it. Or even if it takes like a day or whatever, like it's okay like to step away from something. It doesn't have to like have that pressure on it. I think so that trick is good because like it takes that out of it. It's like it's whatever, like chill, like just vibe out, write something cool. If it doesn't work out, it's alright, baby. You know, like that's right. What's going on?
That's right.
But yeah, I think that pandemic like break from like it's led people to just be more grateful and appreciative, take that step back. And I think from then it's what's helped me get through like a lot of stuff. It's like sometimes I'll just have to take that step back and be like, this is all good, like this is okay, you know what I mean, and have fun. Because like last year I think when we did Chill Sounds the festival, I think that was the last podcast I did, so I went 3 months without making one, and then it started becoming dreadful. I'm like, I don't like doing this.
Yeah, you gotta take a break every once in a while.
Yeah, but it was weird. Like I was approaching it in a weird way, and then like this year we're like trying to like bust out like 2 every like weekend and put 2 out every week, and I'm like enjoying it. Like I went back to like edit, like doing the cuts and stuff like, because I wasn't doing that. It's weird because I got help. And then, so I didn't have to edit anything. I was just doing podcast. I was like, yeah, that'll be great. And then, like, I realized, like, oh, it's not as fun as I like going in and, like, doing that stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe take some of that back and just enjoying it again. But being grateful that, like, you know, it's not, I don't have to do this. I get to do this shit. And this shit is, like, great. Yeah. Like, I love doing this. And I think it's a bit of, like, what everybody kind of, I think, took from that year, and like, oh, like everything you're doing, like that's because you have the opportunity, right? And like shows, like stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you didn't get, like, you know, you weren't allowed to do any of that shit, so be appreciative of like the chance you get. Other than that, do you guys have anything coming up like lately, in the next few months? Or?
We don't have any shows booked yet. We're kind of just wait. We just try to make sure that we try not to overplay here. We try to only play like 5 or 6 a year normally, so that way. And so we try to space it out in a proper way so we can get a draw for the next show we play. So we don't have anything booked yet. So just whenever stuff comes our way here, the next we'll start filtering through things and see what we can do that makes sense. That's usually what we do, how we determine that. But other than that, you know, just pumping out more songs. We got to film a music video for the next, you know, do the process as we're going through each song. But it's kind of funny because like you said, the catch-up thing, like pandemic actually, I used to feel the same way. Like the songs that we're writing, we need to catch up because we're taking too long to do shit. But pandemic kind of allowed us to catch up and get a bunch of material prepared. Yeah. So that when 2022 we could spend preparing for the next couple years. So that way we had songs already. So that's what we got. 2 more songs we're about to drop for sure that are for sure coming this year. Probably one beginning midsummer and one by the end of the year.
Oh, Midsummer is a good movie.
Midsummer was a good movie.
Wow.
And the steps we have to go through that one are allowing us the time to get the other material written and prepared so we can get that to the next phase. So it's hard, like you said, to do it because you always feel like you're behind. And before the pandemic, it always felt like, okay, we got to keep catching up. But the pandemic allowed us to break so we can now we got this the content stacked properly.
Yeah, we got some side content too. Like I want to eat like the spicy chip, you know, the one chip challenge.
Oh yeah,
I want to try that. I already got the chip. Yeah, and we did like a Deftones cover that we haven't released yet.
Yeah, him and I recorded. It's just like a video recording. Like he did vocals, I did the guitar, and I just need to edit it, the video portions, and put it out.
You play guitar on the bass.
Yeah, he played the guitar on the bass in the song. It was Needles and Pens off the self-titled album. So
shit.
You look through his.
He's got Bert's got a tattoo over
here. You know what I'm talking about? Needles and Pens. That song is the guitar is played on a bass. So yeah, I did it.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so we want to put more shit out like that, just like random side content.
That's what I talk about, like content. I'm like, and people like dread it sometimes. I'm going, you just have to find like what you actually like enjoy doing, and do that. Don't force it. You don't feel like you have to do any of these fucking trends. I go, just find the most way to be authentic, like yourself. And
I like spicy chips. So I was like, I get the spicy chips.
Yeah. In addition to like covers and content like that, like we're gonna try. We're big gamers, him and I. We play a lot of fucking video games. Yeah. So like, we're gonna try to figure out a way to mix that in too with more content we can put out. Because like obviously you have the standard, the shows and singles music release that almost every band does. We'll play the shows when they come around So, we'll release a couple songs, singles throughout the year. That's all, in the books. That's going to happen. But it's just figuring out the other content we want around it. Like I said, doing spicy chip or random ass.
It's the stuff to personalize, to make you what's approachable. So that's one of the biggest. That's actually one of my big things of why I kept this podcast going. Because initially it was just supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be to promote our festival that we were throwing. I was like, I'm doing 6 episodes, whatever. I ended up having fun with it, and I'm like, I go. My purpose of this is not to. It's not an interview. I go. It's not like I have questions that I'm ready to ask you or whatever. I go. It's to show off bands' personalities. I go. They have their music. They have stuff they're putting out. I go, but making you more approachable and making you be like, they seem cool. Like I'm gonna, I will go out to a show or stuff like that. I go, but that was the whole point of it. Like I wanted to show that person, and I realized that's because I realized that's the content that I enjoy. I don't like anything that seems to, again, not real, like fake and not genuine.
Yeah, we're not AI. We're not
kind of cool, but people who are doing cookie cutter things where I will swipe and be like, oh, these are all every one of these persons doing the same idea, and it's just it's not. I was like, what is your idea? That's what I'm interested in. What is actually your idea? What's coming from you?
What do I like?
What am I?
It's just trying to figure out to mix what you like into the thing you want to make. You can mix however your interest in with whatever you're trying to do, like the band, video games or whatever. We're trying to mix that in, or
so one of the ideas that we have, actually before I wrap it up here, one of the ideas that we have is do you guys remember studio vlogs that bands used to put out all the fucking time? So I want to do that for other bands, for example, if y'all ever have a studio day or anything like that and you want to let us crash it, we will make a studio vlog for you. And, you know what I mean? And just and put them out for other bands. Again, because I coming from played in a band and musician and all that stuff, knowing the content creating, I go, when you're recording or doing stuff like that, you want to focus on that and not really have to focus on okay, let's put on the camera, what are we doing for this, let's just do our job. And I'm if I could do it for people, then I'm they don't have to worry. They could just be themselves, do whatever you're doing, and then we'll do something like that. So if y'all are ever interested, just let us know, and then we'll try to work around it and do something. But it's fun. Again, for me, that's fun thing, to do. Yeah. The podcast, I kept it going because I enjoy, one of my favorite fucking things to do is to talk to people about what they fucking love and are passionate about. Yeah. That's all this fucking thing is. Literally everybody who's coming on wants to talk about their music or even other stuff. It doesn't matter. Just these conversations that go a little bit beyond the surface are really nice. So that's why I do this, because I enjoy it. So and the stuff that I put out, it's because I enjoy that. You know what I mean? Who people were coming on, I'm I'm the only one who's picking who's coming on. So I'm picking people that I know, people that I don't. Again, that whole perspective thing. It's all just this thing. But being authentic is the root to all of that, to the music, to whatever content you're making, anything like that. That's the root base for it. But man, I really, 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 really want to appreciate you guys for coming by. I know it was a little bit of a drive, but I really appreciate you guys coming on. Hopefully we get those singles, this year. I mean, I know we are, but I'm ready for them. I'm ready to hear this shit. But yeah, thank you again. And anything you guys want to plug other than that?
What do we got?
For Threnody Discord, if you like gaming.
Threnody Discord.
We're going to be making a Discord channel probably closer to the next single release. Mm-hmm. That way we can have some time to get a stream thing set up. Yeah. But we'll be launching a Discord thing at some point.
That's fucking sick. That's so fucking cool. All right. Well, again, thank you guys for coming by. This has been episode 58. 58? 58. I don't know what number we're on anymore. That's why Bert's here. Thank you. I appreciate you, Bert. But yes, this has been episode 58 with Threnody. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time.
Sounds and breakdowns. Better lose your man. We should run away together while we still can.